It's Lori with Elga Credit Union working with you to become financially fit. Sometimes I'm unable to help people balance their budget, and I find that the reason is because the spending hasn't stopped. I've asked two professionals to be with us today to help us understand addiction better. This has such an impact on our financial livelihood, and they should be able to help us understand what might need to change. Amy, when would somebody know if they have an addiction?
When I'm asked, how would I know if I have an addiction? There are a few things that I would kind of walk through in my mind to ask that person. One of those would be, what kind of pattern of behavior do you have with your item of choice or your substance of choice, or what you believe that you have an addiction to? And if that behavior involves frequent use, like daily use, you need it to be able to function, then that would be an indicator. And also the inability to control the use of it is along those same lines. That makes me think of a psychological dependence, and there could be an addiction there. Another item would be the impairment of any social or occupational functioning. So that means relationships are hindered, a marriage is hindered, a relationship with your children is hindered in some way because of the use of this addictive substance or behavior. Or you are late to work, you are missing work altogether, some sort of reprimands that you're getting from work because of this particular behavior or pattern of use. And then third, another general questioning or line of questioning I would use would be, is there any sort of physical dependence? This typically goes with substance use, but even things like pornography or shopping or food, gambling, things that you wouldn't normally think of as a substance that would still do something to your brain or have an endorphin release that would cause a physical dependence because you get a high from that chemical release. So I would ask questions like, do you have withdrawal symptoms when you don't get to do your addictive behavior or the behavior of choice? Is there an increased tolerance? Do I continually need more and more of this particular pattern or substance? So a pattern of behavior, an inability to control the use, impairment of social or occupational functioning, it's hindering relationships or work, and some sort of physical dependence. Those would be things that I would begin to ask.
What are some of those common addictions?
I've already mentioned there's lots of common addictions. There are things, substances, alcohol and tobacco are your typical ones. Opioids have taken over in substance abuse and use, heroin, and things like gambling, pornography, shopping, food. All those things can be addictive, right down to things that we normally think of more mental health wise. We think of eating disorders or self-harm. Those things continuing to become a pattern for someone is no longer about why they're doing self-harm or withholding food from themselves. It's becoming addictive for them. So there's even coping mechanisms that could be negative when dealing with stress, and now you have the stressor in life and the poor coping mechanism that has become an addiction. So those are definitely things to watch as life comes and stresses us out. And finally, when I'm asked about other ways that I can tell, I just might throw out one or two comments that I have heard that someone who is addicted might normally say, even though they believe that they are not addicted. They will have statements of denial, such as, I can quit anytime I want, or I'm in control of this. This isn't hurting anyone else. Those type of statements are what they tell themselves so that they can continue the behavior. Yet it's a form of denial to say, I have a problem. I need to reach out for help. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Can a financial counselor help somebody who's struggling because of an addiction? Or is there someone professional that they should seek help with?
No, it's important that someone who's experiencing addictions be treated by a professional, someone who is licensed, certified, and trained to be able to provide that type of service. And mental health issues can also be a factor in that, as some people experience grief, depression, anxiety that can be underlying factors with their addiction. So seeing a professional for an evaluation and treatment recommendations to know just how to go about meeting those needs is really important. I understand there are obstacles at times to getting treatment, and if you are having transportation issues or childcare issues, there are agencies, a lot of agencies this year that are offering virtual help. So you may still be able to get treatment over the internet and be able to address and take care of the needs that you have.
If somebody has been able to identify with one of the addictions talked about here today, where are some places where they might be able to get some help?
People are familiar with counseling agencies or treatment agencies in their area, such as in Genesee County, Catholic Charities, or Oakland Psychological, or Ascension Genesys, Hillside Center. So you may already know of a place that you could go to for a professional evaluation or treatment. Some people are not or are unfamiliar, and in those cases, then possibly talking to your family doctor. Your family doctor is your point person for your health and a good person to be able to get any referrals or recommendations from resources in the community. Once you have gotten that treatment and are working with a professional, there are also community resources such as support groups that you could be referred to in the community that could help to support you in your recovery.
I would like to thank Dr. Amy Ludke, psychology professor, and Tanya Farr, clinical psychologist, for helping us to understand addictions better. Let's take control of these and make sure that we're working on them so that we can get our financial life and everything else just where it needs to be.
Wherever the credit union